Hello, this is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk Briggs on Books. And are we all in for a treat today? We have author Suzanne Mendy-Sambou, and she is here to talk to us about her latest book called Mankind. Welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me, Hope.
Oh, I am so glad you're here. Thinking about the way our society is kind of become in this, what I call a disconnect, it is sure nice to know that there's literature out there that brings people together. And, what I love about your book jacket is how you have the two hands reaching towards one another to show that connectivity of people coming together. How did you come up, or what made you focus on that particular writing style to bring people together?
Hope, this is actually a blend of discussions that I have with people and my own experience. I came up with that thinking of a message that I would like to share with the world. And I've thought of so many things, but at the end of the day, I say, I think a book is the best thing to do because that will reach so many people. So that's what actually drove me to write this book.
Well, depression today is what I think in some instances can tear people apart, as there are people that don't really understand what depression is about. And it's very important for people to be able to lean into one another to help. There needs to be a good understanding about what depression is about and how to move forward with it. How does your book basically discuss those things, the depression and the kind of coming out of it and getting back into, a better place?
So, in this book, I first of all share my own experience because I've been through depression, and I've shared also how we can overcome it. I share some tricks. Like myself, I love cooking. That can be cooking. Sometimes when I'm really down, I'll go ahead and just change my look and cut my hair or do something that I like doing. And it can be just trying to talk to somebody. That's the best way to overcome depression because the point is there is nothing we can do on our own. We need one another. Like I said, from the crib to the tomb, we need one another because when you come into this life, somebody welcomes you, right? With
Yes.
your mom or somebody else. And when you're going, somebody will accompany you as well. And in between, as an employee, as a child, as parent, as siblings, as co-worker, whatever that is, we need one another. So for me, I said the best way to do it is first of all to reach out to people. That's the best way to avoid deep depression when it starts. Just watch out the signs like loneliness, lack of focus, lack of interest, all those. And then you can do something before it goes down deeper.
Right. And I think that's really important to recognize too, is how do you get out of it before it really starts to spiral? I mean, there are people who have dealt with depression, and the hardest thing is to get what they call unstuck from it and not let it absorb you and take you down an even deeper, darker path. So, some of the things that you had talked about, like, cooking and, maybe redoing your hair and the way you look, those are some things that are, for people, or going on a walk, something to get their mind off of what's bringing them down. I was once told, get a list of things. What is it that when you're starting to feel that way, take a look at that list. If you journal things when you're in a good place and a good mindset of things that you can do when you start falling into that area of depression, that can really help, bring one out of it. And the other piece of it too is just being able to understand, or another individual being able to understand how to help support you through it. What are some of the suggestions that you would give to people who may know somebody who's battling depression? What is their best way to help support that individual?
The best way to do it, Hope, is first of all to reach out. Try to understand what that person is going through. Because the thing is, sometimes you see somebody being awkward or doing something abnormal, something unusual. The first thing we do is just judgment without even knowing what's going on. So the best way to do it, instead of from far judging that people, kind of questioning what's going on, reach out, approach that person and say, hey, I would like to help. What's going on? What can I do? How can I help you? And if that person is willing to open up, yes, together, let's try to find out what have changed recently. What is going on? Why is that person going down? And then together, if you can't,
And I,
just
and
at
that's so
least give
important.
some words of encouragement, some word of motivation. Smile, just lift up that person. That's the first thing to do. And then depending on the level of depression, that's when you advise to go see a therapist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. It depends on the level of but the best thing to do and the first thing to do is reach out and offer some nice word, offer compassion, empathy, love, and kindness.
Right. And, one of the things, like I said, with the two hands that are reaching together in your book, what I like is it's reaching out. How can we come together in this world of disconnect? Because what we see is people who have these depressive type behaviors going to real extremes. And if it just was that one person that just could have reached out, or even helping them find the therapy they need to get better, that's all
Mhm.
it takes, is just that leaning in and reaching out and helping someone. I think of Diana Ross, reach out and touch somebody's hand, make this world a better place if you can. This concept is really, we need to do more of that as a society, and your book really is bringing about that. Now, one of the things that I really like that you're doing is the wristband. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about, the wristband and your idea behind that, please?
Here they are. So if you read the message on this wristband, it says, be a remedy to yourself and to others. Hope, when you hear the word remedy, the first thing that comes into your mind is medical prescription, right?
Yes.
But it's not it. It's not only medical prescription. The first remedy is the communication we're having, this discussion. It's your smile. It's just a word of encouragement, seeing somebody that is going through a tough time, saying, hey, you're doing right. You're doing good. Keep going. It's going to be all right. So those are small things that can mean a lot to somebody's life. I just give you a small example that I went to a park and I saw a man struggling with her kids. And then at some point from far, I was watching her. So when he came near me, I said, should I talk to her? And I said, yeah, go ahead, do it. And I looked at her and I say, hi, how are you? She said, I'm doing good. I say, I just wanted to let you know that you're brave. You're a great mom. You're doing good. But that deep breath she took at that time told me that she needed to hear that. That's
Sure.
all we need. So this wristband actually is a reminder that we need to do something. We need to change this world, a better world. So it's a reminder that we have to do something. And then whenever you touch it, it reminds you, okay, every morning, how can I help today? What can I do to make this world better? And even if you don't want to wear it, it's okay. But just put it somewhere that you can see it every single day and remind yourself that you need to be a remedy. You need to make a difference. That's what this is
And
about.
it really doesn't take that much effort to do it. A
Mm,
smile is a lot less energy than putting on a frown. The
yes.
words of love and encouragement are a lot easier to release from the mouth than words of hate and disdain. So, these ideas and these concepts that you share are very real. And, we never know, even when we encounter people who seem very grumpy or grouchy, we don't know what they have been through. What did they experience? And if you could be that light in somebody's life, then that's a beautiful thing to do. Now, what's great is you have so many places where people can order the books, but if they order the book directly from you, they are going to get a signed copy, correct?
Yes. So each book that is sold from my website, I sign them. I sign each single book because for me, this signature means the connection in between the reader and me. And on top of that, everybody that gets a book from my website gets a free wristband.
That's wonderful. And your website is www.suzannemendy.com,
That
correct? Okay.
correct. That's
Now
my website.
they can go on and they can order there. There are also other places they can order as well, which would be, I believe, Barnes& and Noble, Amazon,
Yes,
correct?
it's everywhere. Barnes and
Everywhere.
Noble, Amazon,
But
Draft to Digital, everywhere, and the price is the same. Even on my website, it's the same, 99. But the difference is you feel the connection between you, reader, and me, and on top of that, you have the wristband.
and you get an authentic message with your autograph in there and the
Yes,
wristband. Is there anything
yes.
you'd like to share in parting that you would like the viewers to know?
Uh, I just want people to know that we need to make a difference in our own life first and in other people's life. That's how this world will change because the rate of depression is so high to the point that if we don't do something, it will never change. Doing something means individually ask yourself, how can I make a difference? What can I do today to change the world? That's the message that I'm spreading right now. I'm sharing with everybody. If each and every one of us ask, what can I do? How can I help? I'm telling you, help. This world will change, and we'll see a decrease on the depression and anxiety rate in the whole world.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on the show, Suzanne. I really enjoyed our discussion, and I'm going to let the viewers know that we're going to keep the QR code up for a while. If they'd just like to click on that, we're going to keep that up there, and hopefully you're going to get some wonderful purchases coming in directly to you and get those sent out. And again, thank you for sharing your story and then taking that and bringing it into literature to help hopefully inspire other people to either get out of what they're feeling or to encourage others to make a difference in someone's life.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me, Hope. It's been a pleasure sharing this with you and the whole world.
Absolutely. Suzanne Mendy-Sambou, I thank you. And this is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books. Hello, this is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books. I would like to welcome today author Rosemary Althoff. Rosemary, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here.
I am so glad you are joining us live from New Orleans. New Orleans, I think
Yay.
I said that correctly. Anyway, one of your books, and I have been reading up on you a little bit, is your book called Hot Marble. And, really how you started in your own life as an atheist and then converted into Christianity. And your book, starting with the Hot Marble, taking the reader on a journey with some of those life experiences. And I
Yes.
was hoping you could share. We'll start with the Hot Marble and lead up to your latest. But can you share with the viewers a little bit about your experience of making that change?
I started at age 13 when one beautiful summer night, I looked at the stars and I said, I don't believe in God. And I did that because mostly of my view on science. I wanted to be a scientist when I grew up, and I had read many science books, and the popular ones basically said there is no God. The universe happened without him, people evolved, it doesn't depend on him. or anybody. Just nature and physical science. And I bought into that. When I got older, I had enough trouble, like the characters in my books, to want something that could protect me. I ran into Christians who read their Bible, believed their Bible, were not judgmental. They had every stripe of people. They were between the ages of 18 and 30 something, and very vigorous. I was a student at the time at UK, and they prayed for me. And I was very adamant atheist. But one day my friend said, "Will you pray with me?" And I was surprised, and I said yes. I didn't believe I would, but I did. Then I prayed what the Baptists call the sinner's prayer. And I don't want to go into depth on that, but basically when I was done, I was a Christian. And then my friend said, "Now we get to believe in the resurrection from the dead." And I go, "Wow, that's part of the package? It's a pretty good deal."
So from that point, when did you start, because I'll bring these two together, when did you start your passion for writing?
I had begun wanting to be a writer when I was a small child. And I used to make up science fiction stories when I was swinging on the swing set, thinking about aliens trying to invade the earth. And I thought about stories like that all the time. And finally, I did start something in high school, but I didn't get very far until later. And so I began writing stories and sending them to publishers and not getting them back. No, thank you. Finally, I was getting better and better at writing, because that's the process. And I went to a writers' conference, and a publisher looked at my book in 2022 and said, "Your cover is terrible, but your book is good. Talk to me later." So we talked, and she agreed to take my books on. She is a traditional publisher,
Right.
and open to what I had.
So with that, so you started this creative mind as a child, and then you've always had, it seems, a passion for writing. And then when you converted to Christianity, did that then lead you, it's kind of like one would say, did God lead you into then developing these books? And then is that where the hot marble first took off?
Yes, I will describe it briefly. I had gone into electrical engineering at the University of Kentucky, and I was doing fine. But early in my sophomore year, I was a Christian by then, and I started praying, and I felt that I shouldn't be an engineer, I should be something else. So I prayed, and this is so silly, a kid doing this. I stuck my finger in the school catalog and came up, landed on a class in creative writing by Wendell Berry, who is the Kentucky author and poet, nationwide known, worldwide known. He was teaching a class, and a very small 13-person class, and you had to hurry and sign up. And I ran, went to that class, signed up, and got in. And he made all the difference. It switched my thinking away from engineering into science writing.
Right.
And I have worked for publishers in science and business laws, and my graduate degree was in communication research. So I have a science background, but I've just been writing for years and learning how.
So
As
then,
far as my faith goes,
yes.
during that time of college, I wanted to learn New Testament Greek. And so a pastor over there was teaching and said, "I'll meet with you once a week and we'll learn Greek." I learned Greek from him for a year and a half. And at that time I got fluent in the New Testament. And by that time I also became a Lutheran, because they're very consistent on their doctrine. It's very clear. Not because I thought that was the best church in the world, but because I loved the clearness of the doctrine. And by then, I married a pastor to be who became my husband, and we've been in the church ever since. Sometimes I have not liked the church, and my characters in the books are going to show that, but the glory behind the church is worth it.
Well, and that's very deep and so enriching. And when you take those experiences with the hot marble, can you tell the viewers a little bit about that and how it's threading into your other two as well?
Thank you. In the first book, my main character, Lewis, who is a physicist and very successful as a young man, is an atheist. He's very committed. Things beyond his control take him, his brother, sister, and a friend to another planet. I could go on and on about the other world. It's a very earth experience, but it's not very spoiled. It's absolutely beautiful world. However, there's a war going on, and they're caught up in it. In book 2, he has Lewis, that's the cave chamber. It shows a cover with a dark man looking in the distance and in the cave.
Yes,
and
we have that up on the
chains
screen.
hanging on the walls. It's a dark, bad place.
Yes.
Because he has so much trouble in this that he finally decides to turn to the Lord. Or finally decides there is a God and it's worth trying to believe. So that was based on my own life as a teenager. I had dangers and troubles and family problems and all kinds of things that happened that I wanted protection from. And this guy had lots of trouble in book 2. In book 3, he's home again from the planet and has post-traumatic stress syndrome and is confused, has a lovely woman he met on the planet. There he went, and they fell in love, but he's separated now, and this other girl is tempting him, trying to become his new girlfriend.
So is that going to maybe lead us into a fourth one?
It is. I'm writing a 4th book. In the
Fabulous.
4th book, my character is both a Christian and a physicist, and he's more successful than he ever was in his life. He's also getting married to his beloved that came from the planet to be with him.
Okay,
He has everything going, and he's got a mission this time. He's not just a victim of circumstances. He's got a mission. His mission is to capture the leader of the evil horned edge so that they can divert that from taking over the world and other places.
wow,
He's developing time travel.
it sounds like you have an amazing series going there for the reader. So I think it's kind of neat. It's that kind of science fiction yet Christian spiritual melded into one, which is, I think, kind of nice to have on its own because there are not many people that are going to write that way, and I think that makes yours so unique. Where can readers purchase your books? I know you probably have your own website, which is rosemaryalthoff.com, but can they also order from other places as well?
They're mainly sold on Amazon. You
Okay.
can buy them at Target. They used to be with Barnes and Noble, but they got misfiled as small children's books, and they are definitely for adults, although they don't have cursing, explicit sex and all that. They're definitely
Right.
for adults.
Well, wonderful. I really would like to take this opportunity to thank you for being on the show today because you have really not only enriched me and I'm sure the viewers as well about your journey and how you've taken it into your writing and produced some wonderful literature.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So again, readers, if you are looking, you like that science fiction and yet you want that spiritual connection too, take a look at some of Rosemary's writing. You'd start off with The Hot Marble, and then we will also bring up her second book right here, which is called The Chamber, and then you'll finish off with the final book, which is entitled let's see, what is the third one is The Horned Edge. And then the fourth book, is that Silence to Singing? Is that going to be your
That's
fourth?
correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
so 4. That's fabulous that the readers can really indulge in. So Rosemary, we thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you for your in-depth questions.
You are
I
more
appreciate
than
that.
welcome. This is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books.
Yay.
Hello, this is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books. And today I would like to introduce author Patricia Bailey. Patricia, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I always enjoy being here.
Well, we sure enjoy having you here, and I know this is my first interview, so I am really excited. Reading about you, you are an accomplished writer. And when I say accomplished, that means you have won some awards. I would love for you to share with the viewers some of the awards you have achieved and the background behind that, please.
Okay, I have one. I did win a Daphne du Maurier, it's hard to say, award way back before I was published, and then I've won let's see, Inspirational Reader's Choice Awards, the SELA. I've been a Carol finalist. I have I can't even remember. I'm Maggie finalist with the Georgia Writers. Let's see, the Faith, Hope, and Love. I won there.
Oh, that's
Mystery and
wonderful.
Suspense. But
Well-
I'm working on book 19. In fact, just before I came on, I was actually writing the first chapter.
Oh, okay. So can you give us a little teaser about that one then?
Okay, well, I'm actually writing two
Oh.
for two different publications. I'm writing proposals for them. The first one is for my main publisher, which is Revell, and it will be set at an elephant sanctuary here in Tennessee. I don't think many people know that there is a place that has 3,000 acres with 15 elephants on it.
Where in Tennessee is that?
It is between Franklin and Alabama line.
Okay.
It's pretty close. It's all just off the Natchez Trace, and it will be one of my series was set in Natchez on the Natchez. It was a Natchez Trace Park Ranger series, and so the Natchez Trace earlier books were set in the Southern District, which is around Natchez, which I loved going there. And this book will be set in the Northern District, which runs from the Alabama line or actually from Tupelo to Franklin. I think that's about as far as the trace goes now. It may go on to Nashville, but they've been working on it forever.
That's amazing. I mean, I would have never,
Me
conceived
neither.
that there'd be that many elephants out there. But I would love to start getting into a little bit about your style of writing. How would you describe that to the viewers?
Okay, I write romantic suspense, and I'm what they would call a lean writer. There's not a lot of flowery descriptions. I really don't even like a photo on the cover of the heroine or the hero because I think the reader gets their own idea of what they look like. And but there usually is one, and Revell has done really well with the covers, so I can't complain about that at all because they make beautiful covers. I'm gonna turn this off, afraid my phone will ring. And so I write 75% is suspense and mystery, and 25% is romance, because it's much easier to kill them off than it is to get them together.
I know, that was,
I'm
I was like,
telling you.
okay, that's an interesting.
Relationships are hard.
Yes, they can be. They can be. Absolutely. But with that being said, how did you veer into this type of writing style? What took you that direction?
Well, I started out writing short stories for Woman's World, which at the time were, the very first one was 2,500. I only sent them 3,500, which by all rights, she should have popped that in the SASE, as we used to say, and send it back to me. But she kept it, and but in the end, I was writing 1,000 words, a story in 1,000 words, and you have to make every word count. And I think I attribute my leanness probably to that. That plus, I'm not a flowery person. To me, it's bottom line. This is the way it happened, and and this is what we're going to do.
Right, right. No, that's, and everybody has their own style. So how did you actually start to lean into writing? What took you that direction in your life?
Well, I couldn't sleep. And so one night I'm staring at the ceiling, and all of a sudden this man appeared in my vision, and he looked at me. He was standing at a window, and he turned and he looked at me and he said, "This isn't the way my life was supposed to turn out." I thought, wow. And so I began to when I couldn't sleep, I began to tell myself stories of why his life didn't turn out the way he did. And he went away, and these other people came to live in my head, and they wouldn't go away till I wrote their stories. And that's how I started writing romance. And it was always somebody was being murdered. One time it was like I was sitting on the couch sofa, and it's all of a sudden this woman is sitting next to me in my mind, and she said, my name is Taylor, and somebody's trying to kill me." So of course I had to find out what that was all about. And that was the very first book that I wrote, which is, I don't know if it shows, Shadows of the Past.
Yes.
And the book that releases in November is 10 years later and revisits one of the characters in the book. He was a 17-year-old alcoholic that I always wanted to redeem. And so now he's an undercover FBI agent.
Oh, fascinating. And so then does he tie into a little bit of romance too, or?
Oh, yes. A girl comes back. My cat wants in my lap. A girl, she's a podcaster, and her nephew has been accused of murder. And she has come back to clear his name, because that's what she does. It's kind of like the podcast Serial, where and the podcaster digs into cases where people have been wrongly convicted, and she's actually responsible. And when the story opens, of getting someone released, getting the ball started to getting this person released from prison for a crime he didn't commit. And that part of the story hinges on that.
So it seems like in this particular, you've reused the character, brought the character up to date, and 10 years later. Have you done that in any of your other books, or have you just kind of stayed with separate characters for each story?
I've written 4 series for Ravel and 2 for Harlequin. I wrote some heartwarming, some sweet romances, and how I did that, I don't know. But anyway,
Because you're not a flowery type person, right?
it was so hard. And I basically quit writing for them because they wouldn't let me kill anybody. But no, I've written 4 series. Well, I like the action, the suspense. I really do. I like to read it, and I like to write it. But I've written 4 series. The first one, which is the Logan Point series, and that is set just outside of Memphis in a small town. And then I wrote the Memphis Cold Case novels, which were 4. There were 4 books in that series. And then I wrote the Natchez Trace Park Rangers. There were 4 in that. And then I moved to Chattanooga, and I wrote 3 for there, which Deadly Revenge was the last one there. And now I'm kind of going back and picking up maybe 1 book in a series and setting. I really don't. I'm just writing 1 book at a time now. Just kind to see what I want to do. I'm not sure how I want to do it.
So, I mean, with all that you have written, how do you go about developing your characters? I always wonder, you know, is it something, some of the things you just shared about somebody kind of came to you or you saw something outside
Right.
your window, but how do you start that character development?
Well, the first thing I have to figure out is what are they hiding? What is it that what is their greatest fear? What happened to them before they walk on the page? And so I want to know. They always have a dark story moment, and that has changed the way they look at life. And that is, and whatever happened in that dark story way back has created a fear in them that they will have to face before the book's over. That is their character arc, is they're able to face that particular fear. And then I have to know, why is this crime happening now? Why didn't it happen 6 months ago or 10 years? You know, why now? I don't have to know who did it, because a lot of times I'm at the end of the book and finally figure out who did it. And I'm not really I'm kind of a seat of the pants writer, but I'm also I plot as far as I can see, kind of like driving in the fog. I plot as far as my lights will I drive as far as my lights will let me in the fog.
That's a great concept. I like that saying. I'll drive as far as my lights will let me. That's terrific.
Right.
So speaking of driving in places, it seems like your settings typically take place, I know you're from Mississippi, but
Right.
take place in the South. Have you
Yeah.
ever branched outside that area with some of your books to different locations?
Mostly, the only one that really got branched very far would be Jack, the one set near Chattanooga.
Okay.
And I get that's not really, that part of Tennessee really wasn't considered South. I don't think. I mean, I don't consider it South. I'm from the deep South,
Right.
Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. So other than the Chattanooga books, they're all either set around Memphis, but usually in Mississippi, on the border there.
Okay.
I took where I live now and moved it now next to Memphis, because just about every place there in the book you'll find in Corinth.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating. So, when are your new books supposed to be actually out for the viewers to read?
Okay, the one set in Logan Point, the next one out is November the 4th, I believe. It comes out. The one, Deadly Revenge, which was in Chattanooga, I think it released last November.
Okay. Okay.
At 19, it's hard to remember when or what.
Well, that's what you call a nice problem, having that.
It is a
book.
nice problem.
So
I
the
agree.
final thing I want to touch base with you, and we had talked about this a little bit briefly pre-conversation here, or I should say pre-interview, is your name Patricia, and why
Yeah.
you like to go by that as a writer.
I actually didn't. I submitted the first book to Revell under P.T. Bradley, because I thought, well, it's mystery, that's pretty good. And they said, well, it wasn't a deal breaker, but they wished that I would choose a different first name. Bradley is my maiden name. There was
Oh.
never any question. I knew I was going to write under Bradley. And so I'm asking my mother, what do you think about Kendra? What do you think about... I said, what do you think about Olivia Bradley? And she finally said, well, if I hadn't thought Patricia wasn't pretty, I wouldn't have named you that.
Oh, that's sweet. So that's how you came with that. So
That's
I love
how it
it.
became Patricia
you
Bradley.
get to thank your mama for that one, right?
Yes.
All right. So, how can readers go and purchase what's the best way for them to purchase your books? Do they go to ptbradley.com?
Pre-publication, Baker Bookhouse offers 40% off and free shipping. That's
Wow.
better than Amazon.
Okay.
And otherwise, I'm at Amazon. You can get them at any christianbooks.com, Barnes & Noble. I've done book signings at Barnes & Noble several times. in Memphis and in different places. Actually, we did one in Murfreesboro last year. We do them in different places. Chattanooga, that's where it was. I keep forgetting where it's like
It's like your books, 19
Yeah,
books,
who are you?
19 cities. Where am I going? What am I?
Well, that's true.
Well, Patricia, well, look, much continued success to you. It sounds like you're really on a wonderful trajectory here, and it has just been a pleasure interviewing you this morning.
Thank you. Can I say one thing? You can find all my books on my website, ptbradley.com.
Absolutely. And
And
again,
the links to the different places.
yes, so your big one that you're focusing on is Deadly Revenge, correct?
Right. That's
Okay.
what I'm right now.
Okay, well, viewers, if you want to read, a good thriller with a little bit of romance in there, don't expect maybe it always to have a happy ending because there's most likely going to be a murder in it. But
But
anyway,
there's also romance.
yes, there
and-
is some romance, but you have to also know that what else might be coming down the pike.
Right.
But hey, take a look at Patricia Bradley's writing. It's you don't win awards that easily, and she's obviously a very talented writer. Patricia, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. This was fun.
I'm
Always
so
good.
glad. Well, I hope we can have fun again and do another interview in the near future.
That'll be good.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books. Hello, this is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books, and today we have Dr. Julius Chinamo, and you are joining us live from Germany, correct?
Yes.
It's very late where you are, so we appreciate you staying up and doing this interview with us today. We're thrilled to have you here. I would like to talk to you today about your writing background. I know you have your degree in Christian counseling, which I think is absolutely wonderful, but you obviously got into writing somehow, and the book that you have now is called The Horrors of Indoctrination. So how did you go from Christian counseling into writing? I mean, you probably are still practicing, but what took you from that point over to writing?
Okay. I started as a pastor. I am a qualified pastor and ordained pastor. I've led the ministry, the work of God, for over 16 years with my wife. So I started writing during the same time when I was a pastor. When I started to be a pastor, that's when I started writing. But the passion of writing books started way back when I was still a young boy at high school. I remember my teacher at school used to tell me that you are a good writer. Whenever I write a composition, my teacher would tell me that it's nice to read your compositions, your stories at school. So I had the passion of writing from childhood.
So you had a teacher that was an inspiration who told you, and see, I'm also a former teacher. So when a teacher, I think this is so important, gives you that sheds light and helps believe in you and your ability to do something, many times it's great to see that these students go to the next level, and you're one of those people who were inspired by your teacher giving you praise and compliments to move on to continue with your writing. I think that's terrific.
Yes.
So then eventually you worked on becoming a pastor, and it was at that time that you also started writing. When you started writing, did you directly go into writing about, kind of the horrors of things, or did you kind of stay more spiritual? What was initially with your writing? Where did you begin?
Okay. When I started writing, most of my writings, like my first book, it was entitled Testimony of a Missionary.
Okay.
So most of my books, I was writing, or I do write about real stories, real issues. So on that first book, I was just narrating the experiences I had with my family as then missionaries. Then, when I released that first book, it was like a catalyst to many books which I had in my computer, in my small computer, which I had not published. So then I started counting, and this book we are talking about today, The Horrors of Indoctrination, is book number 17.
Wow. Okay. All right. So when you started writing, like you said, it was more towards spiritual, kind of faith-based. But then you have this book. It's called The Horrors of Indoctrination. How long did that take you to write?
The Horrors of Indoctrination took me 7 months to write.
Okay. That actually, by writing standards, that's you did quite well, because for some people it can take a year, couple of years.
Yes.
How did you kind of get into that type of writing?
Okay. So remember, I told you I am an ordained pastor. I have a lot of experiences
Yes.
in ministry. So I just thought to myself, I looked to myself, to the experiences I had seen, to the church in general, especially with the African context, So I looked at it, then I just decided, let me write a book which will tell the challenges which many people face because of religion, the challenges which many people face because of the abuse of religion, the challenges which many people see because of the little understanding of religion. So that's when I started developing my story. The book is a thriller, a true story which I had made into a thriller as I was trying to explain and express the points which I wanted people to learn. By the way, the book is not there to pull down the religion, to take down the church, to discredit the church. No, the book is just there to talk about the things which many people do not talk about these days, in the fear of religion, in the fear of discipline, the fear of being cursed, because we now have leaders, spiritual or religious leaders, who are abusing their authorities, their powers, using undoctrinated methods and ways to try to, to take control of people.
So this is basically a fiction book, but it's based on true experiences that you have observed, the horrors and the terrors of growing up in your region and then Zimbabwe region, and you took those experiences and you put it into your writing.
Yes, exactly.
And I feel so badly that you had to go through any of those terrors, but I always, refer to the word cathartic in the sense that it gives you a chance to release, those experiences, those emotions in a way that you can put it into writing and kind of bring it into a full circle, if you will. And,
yes.
And I think for readers, when a writer takes what I call those real experiences and then puts it into their own creative writing, then you have a great, great book to read. And it seems like you did that with yours.
That's exactly what I did.
I think that's wonderful. Tell me a little bit, do you have various chapters in your book, or does it read all the way through?
The book has chapters.
Okay, so
yes, it has chapters. Like what I said, it is a story. So the story starts with a family which have found a church to go. When they are in that church, that's when they discovered that I think we are at a wrong place, because the things which are happening here they are a little bit skeptical and fear. There's a lot of fear which is being used by the leader. And as they were trying to get out of the cocoon, out of that trap, that's when now they started the fight, spiritual and physical fight with the so-called leader. So as they were on their way to try to find freedom from what they find themselves into, that's when a lot of problems started happening. Cases, they were being fought left, right, center. But the daughter of the family started to push around, fighting to save the family. So at the end of the day, the real religion, the real God, the real God-saving church held the family until they got their desired freedom.
So it really was, when you talk about leadership, poor leadership, families do get affected in many ways, whether it's through financial violence, all of it. You have bad leadership, it can take a country in a very terrifying direction, especially when it finds its way into the family's life and lifestyle.
Yes.
And as a person who probably experienced that, you took that and you brought it into your book. It sounds amazing. Where can the readers order your book?
The book is found on Amazon, mainly Amazon USA. Then it is also distributed by many shops, Kobo, Digital, a lot of shops, they have the book, and we are still pushing that it can get into many shops, many online shops.
And if people want to find out more about you, they can go to www.juliuschinamo.org, correct?
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Is there anything you would like to tell the viewers before we close up and wrap up here?
One thing which I just want to tell people is that as we make a choice or a decision to follow a certain religion, we should be very careful that is it a godly, Bible-believing church, so that we avoid a situation where we can go to a place in the name of a church, then we ended up, entangling ourselves in a very dangerous and difficult situation, or a cultic group where we cannot get out easily. We need to have a spirit of discernment before we make a final decision to join a church. We need to be God-fearing people so that we are directed by the Holy Spirit to go to a best place for our families.
Well, I thank you so much for your insight today. I mean, you've given the viewers a great deal of information. And viewers, I think if you're looking for a book that takes true life experiences but places into more of a fictional type of a genre here, this is the book you're looking for. It's called The Horrors of Indoctrination. It's by Dr. Julius Chinamo. And I thank you so much for your courage, and I wish you continued success in your life's journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. This is Hope Roski with Central Valley Talk, Briggs on Books.